Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into another set review, this time of Otherworldly TCG Core Set 25, The Nature Element. I am your host, Manifestable, joined here with Tom the Boss Ross. Tom, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, man? Good to be here. Good to review this set right here. Put a lot of work into it.
That's awesome. Glad to hear it. Well, you contributed as the lead set designer for this set, so really excited and privileged to have your insights and opinions. One thing that's unique about the entire core set 25, we're going to start off with the nature, is that there are some old favorites as well as some new cards, new mechanics. So let's just jump right in. We are kicking things off with an old favorite here. This is Speedy, 2 mana, 3/5 Rush Champion. And yeah, talk us through Speedy and a little bit about what this card is doing in core set 25 and where it represents.
Yeah, so we reprinted a lot of the staples from the presets, mostly generations 2 and 3. And Speedy starts it off. A 2 mana rush creature has always been good in standard and in really see tournament play. Has a great evolution line, and in fact, it has a third part where previously didn't have a third part. But the second part is Smacky, a 5 mana 5/8 berserker. You know, as evolutions go, they just get a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and they're always nice to play on top of something that can tend to live. 3/5 and speedy usually can bump off something and then survive. But in this set, we have Slappy, a pretty big guy, and in this set, we're also making power and toughness higher than 9. So right here, we see a 7 mana 9/12 with Rush and Berserker. I've seen two abilities appear on a card before, but it's going to be a thing that happens here in Core Set 25 quite a lot, especially on the higher rarity cards.
Yeah, and this is one example, and there's another example that we'll get to in a moment of an old evolution line that gets a new update with a new card from the new set. So Slappy is that brand new card. Moving on, we're going to check out Boldo. This is an old staple. Oftentimes, these types of cards are deceiving because it looks so innocent and so harmless. I mean, a 1 mana '07. But of course, we know that this was a staple card, proved to be really valuable for protecting. And what does Boldo evolve into?
Yeah, this is the second card that evolves into something new in this particular set. It goes into Rolling Stone. So hopefully, after your '07 soaks up a little bit of damage, you can live, evolve into this, which even has a ton more toughness. See, the 3 mana 1/9 provoke and fortify. So the same has that same provoke ability as Boldo, but for every champion the opponent has, it's going to get 3 toughness. So you're going to have a 115, 118 pretty easily. That's going to be hard to get through.
Yeah, and what's nice too is that you don't just have to live off that evolution line. That is still a reasonable cost there. 3 mana, 1/9 with provoke and fortify, two great mechanics. Moving on, we are going to get through some core staples. Part of core 25, revisit some old favorites, some iconic cards from all of Otherworldly TCG's history. We're kicking things off here with a very cheap 1 mana control card with Tiruk.
Yeah, one mana cards are just so powerful. It's so easy to fit into like your curve. Say it's like turn 5, you want to play your 4 champion, but you also want to play something else. You can double spell really easily with things that cost 1. Also, this 1 mana card, the Earthquakes 2, kind of doubles up with other Earthquake effects or even Fungal Spores effects. Just kind of shrink them down before you kind of finish them off with a bigger card.
Yeah, and then that jumps into Tantric. This is, of course, an iconic card from Otherworldly's history. 4 mana, 4/6 Earthquake 2. So a nice follow up, and of course the dream scenario there is you are evolving into that Tantric with Tirek. So yeah, this is another one that's a staple. We don't have to spend too much time on it, but moving through, we'll go through to Spriggon. Spriggon is a 2 mana 4/5 life bloom, and this is also another staple. Maybe one question I wanted to ask you about is, how do you feel some of these nature mechanics are positioned in the format, with life bloom and regrowth throughout the entire set?
Yeah, you see some recurring words in Life Bloom and Regrowth, and a few other like Earthquake and Fungal Spores and stuff. We're starting off right now, so bear with us with the. We're starting off with the reprint, so we're gonna get through them. Then we'll get to the nice, exciting core set, just brand new cards. But yes, Spriggan has always been like the best Life Bloom creature you can play. I mean, at worst, it's a 2 mana 4/9, and it has a good evolution line too.
Yeah, and that jumps into Floridon. The reason why I asked that question is just because there is some, recurring mechanics with regrowth on some cards that are coming up, and so yeah, excited to get through those. So yeah, Floridon, a nice one that evolves off that Sprigon. Of course, Sprigon able to survive a lot of exchanges due to the ability to bloom itself, and then moving on to its largest evolution, which is Verdiantia. This is the 5 mana 8/9 equality. And jumping through that one, we're gonna get into the first otherworldly card that we're previewing here, which is Yggdrasia. This is an 8 mana otherworldly 09, but the nice part is that that otherworldly ability does benefit the rest of the cards in that element based on the mana cost. So being able to drop a few cheap nature guys and drop an Yggdrasia, that's sort of like a home base for the nature element.
Yeah, there's one otherworldly printed, just in the core set, and it's always a reprint. But yeah, they're really benefit you for playing all of that element in your deck, and this one in particular gives 8 +8 +8 to all your nature element champions.
Yeah, it's like reminiscent of like a Craterhoof Behemoth or something. It's just some big, chonker that you can use to finish people off. We're going to move forward to a few more of our reprints. Cherry. So this is a 2 mana 3/4 with Life Bloom. This is kind of like a poor man's Sprigon, and then we move through that into Blossom, 4 mana 5/6 Life Bloom, and finally moving to Sakura, 7 mana 9/9 Life Bloom. So the nice part about these is that they do play really nicely with each other, and sometimes you say that Cherry is a poor man's Sprigon, but sometimes when you're looking for that evolution line, you're willing to kind of play a worse version of something because you actually get a benefit later. So we see that, and that's exciting.
Right, you have to play the evolution line kind of as a whole. There's a lot of people like Blossom better than say Floridon, previous Sprigon evolution chain, and Sakura is just a huge creature to just have out as kind of like your final payoff for going for that line.
Yeah, we also see with effects like time warp the ability to, what you time warp into. So yeah, you are getting a slightly worse version of a card, but the payoff with these other mechanics can be beneficial. We're gonna move through this to Luna Everglow, the Forest Whisperer. So this is our first hero that we're gonna be debuting, and yeah, talk us through this one a little bit.
Yeah, there are a few reprint heroes. There are eight brand new heroes within the set, and was just one of the reprints. Um, yeah, it may not be the best thing you get for 9 mana because instead there are a lot of powerful 9 mana cards, but still you can gain 15 life. You can make something pretty much unkillable for a long time with the Life Bloom 15. But a lot of people will use cards like Luna Everglow for their heroes, so they play them like to build decks around.
Yes. All right, and then next up we have a three evolution line, but we'll start things off with Trembler. So talk us through Trembler. What's going on with this card?
Yeah, 2 mana 3/2 with Earthquake 2. There hasn't been a 2 mana Earthquake 2 yet, so it's kind of a small little guy to clean up, small little stuff. Maybe like opponent has some ice cubes, they have some trouble getting through. Just go, clean up the mess.
Yep, and then that leads into Shaker. Shaker's a 6 mana 6/5 Earthquake 6. So similar to that Tyrek line where we saw Tyrek into Tantric, we're seeing this Trembler into Shaker, but you just get the benefit of a bigger body with Shaker.
Yeah, it's also the first Earthquake 6 card. Um, Costs more than the previous Earth 5 cards, things like Sanger and Gen 5 and Gen 4. And it just hits on a different number than kind of used to with a nature. Fungal Spores hit 5 toughness champions and get a bunch of Earthquake 5 effects in the presets too. So it's a little bit different, but also a little bit more vulnerable because that 5 toughness is not as safe as 6.
Yeah, absolutely. And then moving through to Rumbler. Rumbler, the last card from that evolution line. This is an 8 mana, 8/7 with Earthquake 8. So we see that, the theme carries throughout, where, you're getting a little bit heavier attack value, and typically that Earthquake cost is matching that mana cost. And this is just the biggest version of that.
Yeah. For 8 mana, you're going to pretty much sweep the board, but at that 7 toughness, it's going to be a little bit more vulnerable. And as you'll see with the water element, the cards like have Hydro Blast hit exactly a Rumbler. So some cards that may have 5 or 7 toughness aren't quite as safe as they look. So you get a lot up front, but and it looks pretty good, but it'll probably die soon too.
Awesome. And then we are moving forward to Flemmingbird. Flemmingbird, a 2 mana 4/4 with Leech 2. So this is our first chance to see, first of all, just a 2 mana 4/4. That's a nice big body. And then what is Leech 2? And talk us through this Flemmingbird.
Yeah, so at the end of your turn, you will gain 2 life and the opponent lose 2 life for whatever the number of leech is. So in this instance, it's 2. And it's a pretty solid little bird. 2 mana 4/4 with leech 2, so you get 2 life up front for you and 2 life hurting them immediately. And if they don't get rid of it, then that's going to happen every turn. So it does require an answer. It's going to keep sucking out of that honeysuckle till you're all drained out.
I love it. All right. Next up, we have Bakken, and this is 1 mana 09 with Berserker 4. Maybe, I know that these 1 mana cards, they can always be deceiving because you look at them at first and you're like, 1 mana 09, who would want that? But yeah, talk us through what's going on with this card.
So it's quite strong. It does cost 1 mana, but doesn't have an evolution line. And supposed to do is, play a card like Trembler. And well, it'll take 2 damage, but then it'll be a 4/7. Also, there's a reminder text on Berserker. Um, in this case, whenever it takes damage, it gets 4 power. All the cards in this set have Berserker 4. So even though it doesn't have any cards you see that have Berserker and don't have the Seal 4, then you can look at the default value of it if you mouse over the reminder text. But this is supposed to be used for like your own small earthquake effects, kind of grow your own creature.
Yeah, nice way to compliment. I also love the art on this one. Guy looks pretty badass. We're gonna move on to the next card, which is the Mistiraf. So this is a 2 mana 4/3 with regrowth 3, and yeah, this is the start of those. Reintroducing the regrowth mechanic into these new champions. So talk us through what's going on with Mistiraf, and what are the types of situations where this is gonna benefit you.
It's just a cheap regrowth creature. We didn't quite mention, but regrowth is when it dies, all of your champions get +0/+3 in this instance. And you're supposed to use it whenever you have a board full of champions. But even if you can't, you also gain that 3 life, by the way. Even if you can't, and if you only buff like one of your other champions, it's still probably pretty good. So it's just a little solid creature to fill out your curve and get some value out of.
Yeah, and oftentimes your opponents will want to play around it where they don't want to attack it because they don't want you to grow. So then maybe sometimes you are able to squeeze an extra attack in there because they don't want to give you that additional value. So now moving on, we have the Wild Mane, part of the evolution of the Mistiraf. And what is Wild Mane? This is a 7 mana 7/7 with regrowth 5. But just big beater that you're able to sort of top out at the top of your curve, and if it dies, you get to benefit some of the cheap creatures you have beside it.
Right, right. Just
All
go
right,
right
and
into
then
turtle here.
we'll go into Turtle next. Turtle is a 1 mana 3/1 with Fortify. Another 1 mana card. I always am very mindful of these cards. Walk us through what's going on with Turtle.
Yeah, it's something you can play on turn 1. And probably be a 3/4 at that point. Maybe even 3/7 if they came out with a white lily or something. It's just a cheap creature, but you don't really want to play it on your very first turn. You want to play it somewhere in the mid game, or maybe it gets better later. But of course, 1 mana cards like this get worse. So you gotta find a sweet spot, just kind of take the opportunity to cast it.
Yeah, perfect. And then it evolves into our next card here, which is the Grow Turtle. Turtle is very similar to the turtle, it's just grown a little bit more. So we see it's a 4 mana 8/2 with Life Bloom. It has two abilities, Life Bloom 4, so the natural Life Bloom, but it also has Fortify. But what's nice about this is that when you are playing that turtle late game, or mid game, and then but you're able to play it on with another card because it's so cheap, so you can actually play two or sometimes three champions on the same turn, and then you're benefiting from the fortify. It gets the value of the big butt, the big health benefit. Usually that means it sticks around, which allows it to evolve much more easily into something like this Grow Turtle, which is much more ferocious and fierce. Yeah, talk us through what's going on with this card.
Yeah, just
And
like
this
you
is
said,
also a rare.
yeah, yeah, just like you said, some of the best evolution chains come from the earlier portion of the chain being very resilient to just like an attack and getting killed in one shot. Yeah, Grow Turtle is a great payoff. Gonna have a huge toughness, and you can give itself that 4 life with the life bloom, or you can spread it around. It's up to you when you have a chance to cast that Grow Tutor.
Yeah, and I just really like these two cards right here. They're probably right off the bat two of my favorite, because they have that sneaky value. You're not really expecting them to be as powerful as they end up being. At least that's my impression of these. But yeah, with the life bloom, you can always bet bloom yourself if it's late game and you're basically hell bent, or you're always getting a 4 mana 8/6, which is just good value. But when you have the ability to add that fortify, now you have the ability to buff something else, maybe even get an attack in that would otherwise look unprofitable for you. So I really like that. We are going to move on to the next card, which is, I believe, our first diamond that we're debuting here, Dr. Nectar. So Dr. Nectar is a 9 mana 6/11 and has some unique abilities. Talk us through what's going on with this card.
Yeah, 9 mana 6/11. It's Energize 5 and Afterlife 5. Energize says all your champions this element do that much more damage whenever they do damage to an enemy champion or the opponent. So that sounds a lot like +5/+0, but it also works with your like Earthquake or anything similar to that. Yet you will see Energize in other elements like Fire, where it'll buff up your Wildfire and Inferno too. So what it's doing is giving itself +5/+0, so it's an 11/11. Is right off the bat. Anything else that you have rolling around, they get 5 extra power too. If you cast an Earthquake card, it's going to do 5 more damage to all their champions, but not hit your own champions. It won't do extra damage to your own. Then Afterlife is an ability that it creates a 3/4 with regrowth for every instance of Afterlife it has. So you're going to have to create 5 3/4s with regrowth when this dies. How much will it die? I don't know. It has a big target on its back. There are effects that can get rid of champions without outright killing them. So if you're forced to have to deal with it the natural old fashioned way, you're gonna have a tough time.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's like, that's the hornet's nest. You're smashing the hornet's nest, but all the hornets come out of it, right? Well, one of the things I want to take a second before we get to the next card and just talk to you about is, the importance of the rarities of these cards. As our lead designer for Core Set 25, you were talking about, really making this feel like, if this is a diamond card, it feels like a diamond card. And that is something that I think, really is evident out of this card. I mean, I can't wait to drop this on the battlefield. Dr. Nectar looks awesome.
Yeah, the diamonds in the set should feel powerful and unique, and perhaps even have their own interesting deck ways to build around them.
Awesome. Now we're going to move on to the next one, A Cornito. This is a 4 mana 6/6. It has equality and afterlife 1, so we're seeing the repeat of that same mechanic, but just in a slightly different way on a slightly different body. This one's going to give you less of the 3/4s with regrowth upon death. But a 4 mana 6/6, that's always been a good value on that turn. And then you have the benefit of being able to also use equality to your advantage, which I'm really interested about. What were your thoughts on this card?
Yeah, so of course equality is whenever this dies, whoever has the least amount of life gains 12 life. Hey, Cornito's in a nice spot where it's pretty good on offense and pretty good on defense. If you're losing and you have to trade it off, and you can gain a good amount of life, and then you'll have a 3/4 regrowth that'll gain you more life. But if you're on aggressive, then it's a 6/6. It's attacking, and when they kill it and they gain the 12 life, then you have a 3/4 leftover. And if you're winning the game, as presumably you were, then when your 3/4 dies that had regrowth, you probably have a good board to build off of. So I like how it kind of fills both roles.
Yes, that's awesome. That is a rare card. We're going to move forward to the next card on our list, which is Bonsai. And Bonsai is a 3 mana 4/4 with Rally. So this is our first chance to explore the mechanic of Rally. What is Rally and how is it used in the set?
So it's another elemental ability. Rally means whenever you play this card, all champions of that element, so in this instance nature, get +2/+2. But it also says whenever you play another champion of this element, that also gets +2/+2. So it's kind of like an anthem effect that affects it now and for all the future champions you play. And it also affects itself. So this is a 3 mana 6/6 set with all upside.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I love to see these build around strategies where you can kind of, really build an entire, not just with, a standard deck, but also in draft. When you get maybe this early, you can just sort of start taking some of these, really cheap cards, knowing that you can drop rally on them sometime mid game or something like that. We're going to move to the next card here, which is Autumn. And Autumn is a 5 mana 9/9 with Leech 4. So we talked about this mechanic, but this is good. This is in that sort of territory of the Angel stats where it's 5 mana 9/9, but it has this really great ability Leech 4. So talk us through what's going on with this one.
Yeah, just carrying on with the tradition of like purities and Lilith and Sin and whatever. Uh, yeah, 9/9. That's very strong. Doesn't have any evolutions. It's an angel. It's the highest rarity in diamond in this case, and it's just strong on its own. And they're also usually pretty rare and pretty hard to find. But it's a really powerful effect. A 5 mana 9/9 is solid, and Leech 4 is a big number for leeching. 4 life for you and 4 life against them just up front and kind of hard to kill. So it's a good chance it'll trigger again. It just kind of gets out of control.
Yeah, yeah, that's just a win condition on its own. And of course, if they are going to kill it, it's almost like an earthquake because they have to probably send a lot of things at it to try to kill it. So yeah, we're going to move on to our next card here, and the next card that we have is the Bitter Branch. So Bitter Branch is a 6 mana 8/8 with Life Bloom 6. Talk us through the Bitter Branch.
Not really much to say here. This set wants a few life bloom creatures, kind of want density of them. Some heroes like Luna Everglow use that life bloom keyword to build around, and this is kind of just a card for draft. It's a common.
Yeah. And also, we'll get to it towards the end of this set, but we also see the reintroduction of some eggs in the set through a mechanic that we're going to go over in the future. But yeah, if you can drop this bitter branch in off of an egg or something like that, that is obviously, really great value. So let's move forward to the next card on our list here, and we
That
are
should be
bringing you
Chiba.
Chiba. Yep, Chiba is a 5 mana 9/9 with poetry. Talk to me about this card.
Well, this is a core set. It's meant for newer players as well as old, and don't want to fill every card up with lines of text and complicated keywords. So trying to keep some of the commons pretty simple. But this one is, as big as it can get for 5 mana. 5 mana 9/9 was kind of as big as you got previously. So this is kind of like the standard now.
Yeah, and this is that common, so it is that same. No, it doesn't have the mechanic of leech that we saw with the previous angel, but you are getting good stat value on a card like Chiba. Next up, we have, I believe, we are going to show you Gigantic, and Gigantic is, fittingly, it's a gigantic card. It is 8 mana. It's kind of like a super Chiba, right? And it's the evolution line of Chiba, but it is a 8 mana 15/15. So yeah, this one also just no ability, just a big solid ground pounder.
Yeah, sometimes keeping it simple is the best. Don't need a keyword. Doesn't have something that comes into play. Doesn't have something when it dies. You get what you pay for. You get raw stats. for your 8 mana, and
Yeah.
it evolves from the Chiba, and it's common too.
Yeah, one thing it does have is a lot of a lot of attack and health. And again, we talked about it. We're about to show because we have a the wobbles is was one of the cards that we'll show you in a minute, but it has an ability that brings eggs into play, and of course, yeah, if you can drop a gigantic off of an egg, that's something where it'd be a lot of fun. I can't wait to get started with that. Okay, now let's see Vita's gauntlets. This one is the gauntlets, the equipment that go with the card that we're about to show you. But before we get into the card that these gauntlets belong to, let's just talk about the gauntlets themselves. This is a 1 mana with the equip ability of regrowth.
Yeah, so that with any of the equipment, you can put it on itself, and so you have a 1 mana 0/1 with regrowth. But you probably want to put on something that you get in combat that turn, and the pop the regrowth effect that turn. In previous sets, we had equips that didn't really do much after you played them. They were just kind of 0/1s. So I kind of had the idea, well, how about we have some evolutions from the equipment, so they're just not sitting around there forever. And Vita Loca is one of them. Every element has uh, kind of like a champion that evolves from an equipment. In this case, it's Vita Loca, 4 mana 7/8 with provoking regrowth, which can be two pretty annoying keywords to run up against because you have to push through this provoke creature, and once you do that, then the regrowth pops, and uh, yeah, so much more toughness to deal with. In this case, we see regrowth not have any number next to it. That means it's the natural 3, the default.
Great, yeah, and I really like that. I also like with the way that it plays with the combat math, because even if we're just thinking of the gauntlets, yeah, like you said, you're attaching it to something that's already out, able to attack. But then the fact that you can regrowth right away, maybe you had some attacks that weren't profitable before, but now suddenly they're profitable because you were able to regrowth, and you can actually trade off and take some enemy champions down while keeping yours around. And then with Vita Loca, we're also seeing the same ability, or the same sort of double-edged sword quandary that you're putting your opponent in. First of all, it's 4 mana, so I know it's not it's not a 9/9, it's a 7/8, but it's 1 mana less than the Leech Angel that we saw. So it's almost in that Angel territory. I think it is a diamond, so obviously very fitting that it should be extremely powerful. But it has that, like you said, there's you want to kill it right away, but also you want to kill the opponent's board so that when you kill it, then the regrowth isn't super valuable. So yeah, it puts your enemy or your opponent into a really tough position there. And like we talked about before, it's kind of like an earthquake, a pseudo earthquake, because they're gonna have to mow some of their own champions down just to try to get it. Not many creatures on turn 4 are going to trade 1 for 1 with a Vita Loca. All right, next up we have a very cool common card, one of my favorite in the set. I've been sort of, spoiling this one a few times during the show, but this is Wobbles. This is a 4 mana 7/7. Yeah, talk us through what's going on with this card.
Yeah, so every element has a common with nesting, and what nesting is when it dies, it creates a 0/1 egg of that element. These are eggs that already existed in previous sets. In this case, it's Grun, which is just 1 mana 0/1 with Hatch. So if you don't know what Hatch does, is you can play any champion of that element on top of it and draw a card, and you basically play any champion for 1 mana. And then if it doesn't live, if the Hatch card dies, it just makes a 2/2. So at worst, Wobbles here is a 4 mana 7/7. Then when it dies, it makes a 0/1. Then you kill that 0/1, then it makes a 2/2. So it's going to absorb their attack, take a lot of their attention. And if that egg isn't left unchecked, you can play something huge, like we were saying, like gigantic.
Yeah, and yeah, just like you said, I mean, first of all, this is a common, so this has to be like draft premium. This has to be like a bomb pretty much. But
Yeah,
a really nice build around me card because it gives you those eggs, and then you can sort of afford to take these things like gigantics that maybe it's going to be difficult to play those profitably, or early enough in the game to really be significant. But with wobbles, it sort of cheats it.
yeah, the set's really meant for drafting. That brings us to the end of the nature cards in the core set. Every element does have 8 crafted cards that when you combine your shards and make a a nature pack, you can open these cards. So we'll hop into the 8 crafted cards that exist in the nature here.
All right. And yeah, first up, we're going to talk about Shroomling. So yeah, Shroomling is a 2 mana 2/3, and it has the ability Harvest and Mud Flood. Talk us through what's going on with Shroomling.
So right off, I didn't want to put many old keywords on just the core set. So you're going to see some keywords from previous sets appear on the crafted cards. If you want to opt into that complexity and craft your own packs and find these cards. So Shroomling is 2 mana 2/3 with Harvest and Mudflood 3. Harvest is you get a random lily. There are 7 of them. They all cost 0 mana, and they always have a pretty decent effect for very cheap. So it costs 0. Then Mudflood is they put 3 turdies in the deck at random, the opponent's deck, which are just 1/1 creatures for 1. So it kind of dilutes their deck, makes their draws pretty bad.
Yep. Awesome. Okay, so and that's a 2 mana 2/3. So and this card is a rare, but that is really great value. I love that mechanic of putting the Mud Flood and putting the Harvest both on a 2 mana 2/3. That is really cool. And like we talked about before, there's other ways to get extra value out of these cheaper cards, like with the rally cards like Bonsarai and some of the other ones. Next up, we have Gloomcap. So Gloomcap's a 5 mana 6/6 with fungal spores and leech too. So just like you mentioned, we're seeing a new mechanic with leech, but also an old mechanic like fungal spores. And yeah, talk us through what's going on with this one.
Yeah, so it's not the cheapest fungal spores card. It's not the most expensive. It's just a different one. It's one that has leech 2 on it. So in the nature decks, I feel like they want to pad their life total a little bit, or if they're just naturally playing Shroomling because they just want to harvest or mud flood, then this would be a different option. Say like Fungorth was in Generation 4. Um, it's different, a lot of the same, a little bit different. Just depends on what your deck is looking for.
Yeah, and I see a lot of themes of, you're getting immediate value with the fungal spores, but it's also this lingering value. Not only do you have this big 6/6 that you have to deal with, but also, like you said, it has that leech ability. Moving on to the next one, we see Spore Lord. So Spore Lord is a 7 mana 9/8 with fungal spores and leech 3. So very much similar vein to the card that we just saw, but it's just like the granddaddy version of that one. So we don't have to spend too much time on that one, but
Right?
we can move. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're right. We can move on to the old Shroom
Move
Glade
on to
here,
Shroomglade.
which is
Shroomglade is a 5 mana 5/5 with Otherworldly. So first of all, I love this. This is really cool seeing an Otherworldly card that has an attack value. Talk us through what's going on with this one.
yeah. So all the otherworldly cards previously didn't have any power. They were just kind of lands, areas that kind of just were just environments. But these are a cycle of otherworldly cards that kind of are living environments. So we'll see this cycle of mythic otherworldly cards that are crafted for each of the elements, and they'll be places that can attack, and they're cool, and you can get your beat on with otherworldly cards now.
Awesome. All right, and then next up, that one is a rare. I also want to point that out. Then we see Twinkle Wing, also sorry, not a rare. Sorry, that is a mythic. Then I see we also have a mythic here with Twinkle Wing, 1 mana 2/1 with Afterlife 1. So we talked a little bit about Afterlife. Drops a 3/4. But yeah, what's the thinking behind the Twinkle Wing here, and and its evolution line that we're going to get to?
It's just a really strong creature. It's hard to find because you have to craft it. And it's a mythic, but a lot of the nature decks will want it. Maybe even some of the non-nature decks, but um, yeah, it's really just a one drop you can count on. And if they get rid of it, they get rid of it, and you have a 3/4. If they don't, then you probably just attack into their creature and have it die.
Yeah, it's like a Savannah, Savannah lines or something, like old school. All right, now we are switching into I believe this is the last card of our 8 special crafted cards, and this is Ether Moth. 3 mana 7/5 with Life Bloom and Afterlife 1. So wow, I mean, we talked about Twinkle Wing, a really powerful card and effect, and now we see its evolution is a diamond, really powerful 3 mana, one of the best stats I've ever seen on a 3 mana card. But then you get this extra value. The Life Bloom can obviously bloom itself, so it's a 7/9 And then when it dies, it becomes a 3/4 with regrowth. Really, really powerful. What was your thinking with this card?
Yeah, I wanted it to fit into the nature hero decks, things like Elder Barks and like Luna Everglow, things they're looking for rebirth cards and life bloom cards. And I wanted nature to be a little bit different than just, play all your earthquake and all your fungal bloom stuff. So things that want to have a huge creature in just nature, then this will be the one for you. But we do have two others coming up, two more two more
Two
crafted
more,
cards. One's
right?
a hero and one's a one's a rare.
Yep, I do see that now. Now we have Thornforge, Lord of Wildgrove. This is a 7 mana 10/10 with Elemental Aegis and Fury. Talk us through this one.
Yeah, so 7 10 10 element Aegis, so get well, Aegis says whenever it takes damage, it doesn't take any damage, so it could be 1 damage or 10 damage. But it gets a shield stack of that for every nature champion you have, including itself. Then it can attack it an additional time for each nature champion you have. So if you have 5 other nature champions, you can attack them for 60. It's pretty hard to kill too, because you have to ping down its Aegis, and it's also a hero. I don't know if it's spoiled yet, but the text of the hero ability should be out soon, if not yet.
Awesome. So stay tuned for that. And now we're going to get to our last card here. This is Stalk Reaper. Thornforge was a diamond, I should say. Stalk Reaper here is a rare, 4 mana 4/7, and it has Harvest, which is awesome with the art and with the name and everything. But yeah, what's the theme with Stalk Reaper here?
Yeah, this may be a more of a combo card. You're getting two more zero card casting cost cards, which could have any number of effects. So you're getting 3 cards for one, but on face value, stats aren't that great. 4 mana 4/7, and always a card you want to put in your standard deck unless you can really make use of the lilies you get from Harvest.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Well, yeah, what are your just thoughts on nature as a set overall?
Uh,
As an
eh,
element overall?
it's doing a lot of the same stuff you've all came to expect with nature, but it's also branching into a few different things. I mean, we're doing elite stuff, or doing some rally stuff, which is kind of a mechanic in the set in general. The diamonds and the mythics are kind of more diamond and mythic-y feeling. The nature champions are a little bit bigger than the other ones, and you can actually kind of beat down with nature, not have to use all fungal spores and earthquakes, even though there are options to do that in the set if that's your jam.
Yeah, and do you have a standout card that you think is ready to make the biggest splash?
Biggest splash. I think the card Shaker might shake it up the most. It's just gonna be 6 mana Earthquake 6, which would just be different than what you expect from the rest of the nature decks you've seen in the past. So you're gonna have to play a little bit different. That's gonna actually shake up the format because there was a clear break point of 5. Because the Earthquake's a 5 and the Fungal Spore's a 5, and it's just probably the one of the strongest sweepers in the set, and probably just will be in standard.
All right, Tom, thanks so much for going over, walking us through the nature element, all the new cards, as well as some old favorites. For those that are tuning in, yeah, we wanted to keep these a little bit short, but as you can see, we really love to delve into these cards and all the intricacies of them. So we encourage you to tune back into our other elements. There will be some links in the description for how to click over and check out all of the set review, and make sure to keep your eyes peeled for March 11th when the set launches. Tom, thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, of course. Looking forward to it myself.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the battlefield.